we do have the game up, and I believe that once the spectator countdown is gone, we will be able to jump into game number 1 over here. We are only operating with a 1-minute spectator delay, so it's only a matter of 30 seconds, and we're in the first game.
All right, well, I hope you guys have holding on to your hats because we're about to get ready.
Okay, so who do you think is gonna take this?
Game one, I'm going to go Probe. I like the Abbasid on this map. I think that Probe has a lot of potential here with a semi-fast castle. So if he can look to get out a little bit of cavalry harass onto those sacred sites, or at least a few archers out there, avoid MarineLorD taking them completely, and then get himself up to the castle age where he can sort of capitalize, then I think he's going to be doing fine.
With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first game of a black screen that now has some gameplay on it. The map is Hillendale. This is the first game in the first week of EGC. The winner stays on. On the left side is Probe as Abbasids in red, and to the north is MarineLorD as Delhi in blue.
Already opening up with a mosque here, and it's very tempting for me to say EGC's Genesis, but I tell you what, you know, that tournament, it is now over, but it was a decisive tournament. Both of these players actually meeting. Was it the round of 32, if I remember correctly, Lidicor, where they met?
It was. It was just one round away from the main event. It was actually round of 16. It was deciders.
It was round of 16, there you go. So these two players, a little bit of history about them. They did meet in Genesis. So MarineLorD obviously going through, but it wasn't without a fight. Probe actually took one game off MarineLorD at Genesis. So 2-1 was the final score between these two players. And now Probe looking to even it up a little bit. A difficult time going up against MarineLorD. Anyone would agree with that. But let's talk about the game that we've got here in front of us. So MarineLorD on the Delhi here, already opening up with that very first mosque. Are we able to check and see exactly what technology is researching at the moment? Is it Sanctity? Yes, it's Sanctity that's coming in now. So we may look to see a second scholar actually coming out. So I'd be curious to see exactly how he opens up, but it does sort of look to me like he might just be racing for H2, not playing with any sort of shenanigans in Age 1, which have been quite common, I would say that.
It makes some sense to try and race towards H2 because once you get your H2 landmarking, you can get scholars at a discount rate, so it's much easier to replenish one that might be taken down by the opponent, or just fill up your mosques with it. He's opening with a mill, which helps him get the wheelbarrow started immediately, and of course the berry bonus of the Delhi also helps here, so he's not even touching his sheep for the time being.
Yeah, now one thing to note, he is actually on straggler trees, so with the Delhi, if you do open with a mill, you're not actually going to have enough wood for a lumber camp, so he is down on 0 wood right now, so having to chop those stragglers, and we'll hopefully get enough wood to be able to build that lumber camp up against the wood line. And speaking of wood lines, we check on Probe's base, and we see that Probe has got plenty of lumberjacks at the moment. He is going to be gathering up that wood. I'm curious what he's going to be doing with this, though, Lidicor, because that seems like it's quite a lot of wood gatherers, considering we're not actually on a water map, are we?
We are not on a water map indeed, but as we discussed, Probe needs to set up some sort of map control for himself. Now, the most common way for the Delhi to try and take control of those sacred sites is to just go for Spearmen and the Scholars. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Probe trying to go fast Feudal and an Archer range over here. He's aging with the Economy Wing as you would expect, and he is going to play second Town Center as well, but it's not impossible that we're going to see an Archer range trying to get some sort of map control.
Yeah, I would hope to see that. He would know that his timings are pretty close to, around that 5-minute mark is where his enemy may potentially look to be grabbing those sacred sites. Obviously, the build order that's coming out here from MarineLorD means it's probably going to be quite delayed when he actually comes to taking these sacred sites. So we'll have to see exactly what he decides to do, whether he decides... Is MarineLorD on stone at this point?
He is not on stone, so he's probably going
Not
to
on
play one
stone.
Town Center for now, and just go for the sacred sites.
Yeah, so interesting that he's going Dome of the Faith, though. Are we able to see his macro, his current resources? Yeah, it's kind of strange that he's got so few resources at the moment. I'm wondering where they're all going. But I guess he's got a lot of villagers on that age up. How many has he got? 3 tapping away. So I'm very curious to know exactly what he's doing. I did think that we would see a similar opening to what Vortex has played out, but that obviously isn't the case. So I'm, very curious to know exactly what he's got in his mind at this stage.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to look at. Looking at his wood count, he should have enough to make a barracks or potentially even a stable if he gets up to Feudal Age, but as you said, he's going to be playing one town center for the time being, whereas on the other side, Probe is probably going to play two town centers semi-fast castle.
Yeah, I'm thinking that that's pretty standard, and now we do see that Scholar is going to be coming out onto the map, and this can be neutralized effectively if Probe is on the ball. His scout is moving out onto the map, and so you would hope that Probe would be able to deny at least the very first sacred site, but it does look like he's moving towards the edge, and we already have a stable coming out for MarineLorD. Now, this is probably a little bit of mind games going on here. Keep in mind that obviously Age 1, the big thing for the Delhi is that they can make spears, which can make walls. And then so Probe might be thinking, all right, I'm going to counter that with archers. And then MarineLorD said, well, hold on, he might counter what he thinks I'm going with archers. I'm going to make a stable. Who knows if that's the level of metagame that is going on between these two players, but we do only see a barracks coming out of Probe at this stage.
I do think that that was the idea behind the stable here for MarineLorD, but it's probably the easiest for Probe to just counter this with Spearmen, because his own Spearmen will trade evenly compared to MarineLorD's ones, and then he can just take down the Horsemen with his spears as well. Here come the first Horsemen for MarineLorD, and he really needs to take control of over the sacred sites, otherwise his eco will be very, very weak.
Yeah, going up against the two town centers, it's important to note that taking the sacred sites is definitely going to be a big bonus for you in the early game, but it's going to continue to fall off. So you will need to add that second town center. Now, obviously, MarineLorD hasn't added that second town center yet, but Probe has got that one coming up. We now see the Horseman coming out to meet the Scholar as well out here, and now that begins to transition over to the second sacred site. So taking it slowly is the way I would say he is doing it. You know, some players do go for 2 or even 3 Scholars in Age 1 and look to take those sacred sites, but now we've also got an archery range coming out as well, Lidakor.
There is a range indeed, and he's grabbing the efficient production upgrade, so soon he will be able to garrison the Scholars into production building to accelerate the training, and it looks like Probe will just try to neutralize those sacred sites while MarineLorD is not watching.
Yeah, he's going to have a tough time, though, that Horseman. Got a very pointy stick, and keep in mind, he is happy to just sort of, you know, fend off that with the single Horseman, but now going to be coming out with the Spearman, looking to pick up this Scholar before it even gets out here. There is a Scout, as well as, a couple of Horsemen. These guys shouldn't have too much of an issue clearing this out, at least for now. There are reinforcements on the minimap, and beautiful. Don't you love that slicing sound?
It was a brace by the Spearman as well, so that Horseman got stunned for a moment. The Spearman also has the hardened upgrade, but it shouldn't matter, because the Horseman stays alive so the Scholar can heal it back up.
Yeah, this is actually a really smart move. It's essentially like he's playing French, but he's playing it as the Delhi. I really like the fact that he has used this Scholar here to heal that Horseman up. Very, very cheeky.
And now we will have free sacred site for MarineLorD, which not only will give him an insane amount of gold income, it will also trigger the sacred site victory condition, so it will force Probe to neutralize one of those in 10 minutes.
Yeah, Probe having a bit of a difficult time now pushing out with spears. Spears attacking multiple targets as well. Never something you really want to be doing with those spears, because obviously they are quite low damage. You want to try and focus those units down. But now we do see a few more spears going down, so already MarineLorD getting a nice early advantage against his opponent.
It is a nice early advantage. Looking at the villager count, it's 29 for MarineLorD. Probe is at 33, so that second town center didn't kick in just yet. Currently the resource income should be massively in the favor of MarineLorD.
Yeah, and indeed it is. Look how much gold he's getting per minute there. And that's going to continue to rise now that he's captured all 3 sacred sites. Now, he is approaching sacred site victory, but keep in mind, he doesn't actually want to have a sacred site victory. It's just about keeping that gold income. He will obviously be going for a different type of victory here. Probably a landmark victory or just a surrender victory, which is most likely.
Horsemen are out for Probe though, and he could isolate all those archers here. That was a bit of an overextension by MarineLorD.
Yeah, a little bit of a mistake here from MarineLorD, sort of thinking that his enemy wasn't going to be able to take advantage of him like this, but a lot of spears out here as well, so he's got to be careful. And once again, these spears getting rallied towards the front and just free hits coming in for them. But MarineLorD doing a good job of just thinning out those spear numbers before they meet the cavalry, so it's quite smart from him. But now this other spear is going to be coming in, and he's going to have to fall back from this position.
Looking at MarineLorD's base, he doesn't have any scholars garrisoned inside the production buildings, and he's already getting the House of Learning up, though. That's the gold income that you're up against. Insane
Wow.
amount of gold income. Look at that. It's 9 minutes, and he's going into age 3.
Look how this is an insane build order from MarineLorD. I think this is probably one that is going to be studied by many people. The fact that he is able to get, you know, these early units out, he's got his double upgrades coming in from double blacksmiths, and he's held all 3 sacred sites for the early game. Now, he may potentially lose that, but look at the resource income that he's got behind this. It's absolutely huge. He's sitting right now on 645 gold a minute. So even though he's aged up, he's still going to have so many resources to drop down lances, to drop down men-at-arms once he gets into the next stage and fight for control of these sacred sites.
Absolutely. This is all he wants. And the thing is that those sacred sites generate so much gold that even losing 1 or 2 scholars is completely acceptable here. Probe ends up neutralizing it, and luckily for him, he's got cheap villagers, so he's not that much behind in terms of resources, but he's gonna have to wait 2 minutes until he gets to the next stage, unlike his opponent who can send more villagers to build that landmark if needed.
Yeah, so both players going here for a semi-fast castle here, going to be clicking up around 10:30 here for Probe, so not too bad. I'm curious to see which wing he goes for. It looks like it might be the culture wing. I'm not 100% certain, but yeah, going to be losing out that scholar. And as you mentioned, to lose a scholar, it's actually not a big deal. 75 gold isn't a huge amount, considering what these guys are actually worth with regard to what they can capture. So one of the things to note is that a sacred site brings in 66 gold a tick, and that happens the moment that the sacred site is captured, and then it also happens, I think it works out to be every 20 seconds thereafter.
Yeah, it should be 200 gold per minute, I believe, for the Delhi. Look at that. The moment MarineLorD gets up to castle, she triggers all 4 upgrades on the House of Learning, opening with Owned Blades, probably the most important upgrade for the Delhi here, as he's already working towards Men-at-Arms.
Yeah, and now one of the things to note as well is that the alternative that he could have gone for is the landmark that enables him to build walls with his infantry. Now, obviously, he's playing on a map which walling is quite an important aspect, and the fact that he hasn't gone for it, I mean, it's objectively, I would say, a worse landmark, but it does make sense in this state, in this game rather, for him to go for that House of Learning. So I think it's an important decision.
Look at this. This seems to be a conscious move here by MarineLorD, trying to lure that boar in, but he gives up on it, as it was probably more important to save that scholar from the horseman.
Yeah, now all 3 sacred sites have gone down for MarineLorD at this point, and we can see the horsemen actually trying their best to kill that scholar. A little bit of a body block coming in it, but it looks like they are probably going to be able to poke it down, and it does go down. He cannot heal himself, so unfortunately, he is going to be going the way of the dodo. And now Probe going to be reaching the 3rd age. Also, a battering ram coming in for MarineLorD. Seems a little bit weird.
It seems a little weird, especially only with 3 swordsmen. Now, at this point, he probably didn't know that Probe was almost up, but now that Probe is up, this is just a very, very bad effort here from MarineLorD. That ram would be taken down in seconds.
Yeah, I would be cancelling this. The big thing to note is that the true counter to battering rams is actually villagers. And there's a lot of villagers right now in that base for Probe, and not a lot of military to prevent those villagers from actually doing bad things to that ram. So now Probe are going to begin making those all-important Springalds, and this is where the madness begins, because that Springald is going to be able to focus down all of those men-at-arms. And we see men-at-arms actually coming out now for Probe and going to be focusing down this ram himself. But getting in on the front line, we see those reinforcements all coming through as well. I suspect villagers will get pulled here to deal with the ram. And he's actually going to be able to try and hold off his opponent, but MarineLorD looking pretty strong here.
He's looking pretty strong. The Springald survives, though, and we do have a tower coming in as well. There is no own blades yet for those men-at-arms, though, so I feel like Probe with the closer reinforcements should be able to hold this off for the time being.
Yeah, that Springald actually did go down, so Probe not pulling villagers to repair that one up, but he did pull villagers to take down the ram, so maybe a little bit of an oversight from him. But now those men-at-arms going to continue focusing down the enemy men-at-arms, and I suspect we may have a little bit of a men-at-arm battle on our hands here, Lidicor.
Looks like it, but the numbers are better for Probe right now, and He has the defensive tower to fall back to. He should be fine for the time being, sitting at 65 villagers. MarineLorD is only at 48, so he will need the sacred sites to compensate for that.
Yeah, definitely an advantage over the probe at this point. Now, I guess my question is, who would you rather be in this position? Would you rather be the Delhi, who are slowly recapturing the sacred sites, or would you rather be Probe, who has got a significant villager lead at this point? And I think my answer is probably Probe. I feel like Probe's got a bit of an advantage in this situation.
I think civilization-wise and eco-wise, I like Probe more, but it's a little concerning for him that he has so limited map control, and now his opponent will also have 3 TCs, and now he's got Honed Blades as well on his men-at-arms, so suddenly Probe's men-at-arms are going to be weaker than the ones from MarineLorD.
Yeah, there's a significant difference as well between those two men-at-arms as well. 18 attack versus the 13 attack of his enemy. So a huge difference there when it comes to upgrades. Obviously, those upgrades for MarineLorD are free as well. So this is a very, very nice build order from MarineLorD. And one of the things to note is you can do this on any map that's got these middle 3 landmark, or rather sacred sites. So there's so many maps. There's Ancient Spires, there's Highview, there's Lipany, there's Arabia. So if you're watching this and you're after a good build order, make sure you go back, check this out, see exactly what he did, because I absolutely love it. And now, speaking of love, it looks like we've got some men-at-arms going to be looking to charge in. Now, keep in mind, Delhi do have access to that charge mechanic. It doesn't look like MarineLorD's going to be researching it just yet, or rather, he is researching it, but not going to be utilizing it just at this stage. Now going to be able to take out all of these Springalds, and Men-at-Arms doing very well against Springalds, as MarineLorD in a great spot here.
He is in a great spot. He had better numbers, he's got the better swordsman as well, and now I just feel like Probe needs something else against those men-at-arms simply because his own men-at-arms are weaker. Now, Lancers could be an idea for him, or potentially crossbows as well, but he's sort of on a timer because MarineLorD is taking over quite rapidly.
Yeah, that's definitely it. I feel like the only counter to this at this point is going to be a castle drop of his own, so a defensive castle. Otherwise, those numbers are just going to continue to build up. And we do see raids coming in now as well for Probe, looking to try and change the course of the battle. But he's having a difficult spot. The fact that the enemy men-at-arms are so much stronger than his, and they neutralize the Abbasid Springalds very effectively. He's going to realize, well, hold on, I can't make Springalds against this guy. He's just going to charge in on top of them.
He is, and Springalds are great against men-at-arms as long as there is not a lot of them on the field, but suddenly, when there is like 30, you need like 10-15 Springalds to actually take a good fight.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. So I feel like the only appropriate thing that he could really do at this point is drop down that castle and then begin to mass Springalds under it. That would be it. Now, Men-at-Arms going to be cleaning up these villages down here towards the south as well. A lot of villager kills here, Lidicor.
A lot of villagers, and if you look at the overall villager count, we won't even have the time to do that because look at that big bad boy out here.
I feel like at this point, MarineLorD is memeing. Why is he making a Tower War elephant? Just a single Tower War elephant, and so slow. Look at it go. Springald just going to have an easy time with that as it begins to focus it down. But plenty of men-at-arms in here, but look at all the men-at-arms now rushing in for MarineLorD. And there's just so many of them. It's absolutely wild how the difference in economy that he's got here, finding that little window and really abusing it. So obviously he has realized that there's a window there to be exploited. He's found that. Professional scouts now coming in for MarineLorD as well. So could potentially look to get that food income trickling back in. But I think this might be a good game.
Yeah, it might be. The thing with the Tower Wall Elephant is that, while it will get taken down by Springolds, one thing that this is useful for is that this is a siege weapon as well. It can take down buildings.
That's a really good point. It sits now on 22 HP. It does fall down, unfortunately, but it did stay up a lot longer than I expected that it would. And good game does get called. MarineLorD takes the first game out with impressive men-at-arm control.
It was an impressive men-at-arm control, and it is just nice to see the meta evolving, because back at the beginning of Genesis, we saw every player just full wall, semi-fast castle, double town center, boom. And now we are seeing how the Delhi can leverage this and just force the opponents out of their bases and just have an even better economy despite playing on one town center for a long time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The fact that he's able to have a better economy despite being on that one town center. And I think when it comes to that, it's like, okay, well, he's got one town center, you know, he might be down 15 vills, but he's up 15 vills from those sacred sites that he's holding. And obviously, you know, he doesn't get to keep them all the time. His enemy's going to be forcing him off them, but he's going to be refighting for them, recapturing them as his units get out there on the map.